Oh hey, how y'all doing? Sorry, I was just taking a look at something for our lesson. Okay, dokie. Hold on, let's just make sure one more time that we're all live. Perfect. Excuse me. Here we go. We are back. Let's board edit and then we'll send one in. Oops, I have to close. Hold on. You gotta bear with me, a little bit slow internet tonight, so if it's a little laggy, I apologize ahead of time. Sometimes you get those nights that your internet is slower than normal. Sometimes you don't. But you know what? You don't let it get you down. That's one thing that we've, as Team Chess Cruncher, realize. You don't let it get you down. So it's black to move here, of course. Otherwise, the queen would take the knight. So we are sure that it's black to move. Not all the time though, but for the most part it is. Am I right? Yep. Let us do another one. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm trying to get this in for us so that we can work on it. Oops. There we go. I'm gonna do it for black. Okay. Yep, I got that one right. Got that right. Perfect. Yep. Yep. And we're ready to rock and to roll. Let's do it. Oh. White's queen is attacking both the rook on c8 and the a6 pawn. Since losing the rook would be not an option, losing the a pawn appears to be unavoidable. Many players would accept this and most likely draw the game, but the correct mental stature would be to demand a situation from yourself. I must defend both units or create something else that will sidetrack him or her. I must. Once you realize that this is the major decision of the game, you lose, etc. You lose back your extra pawn or you retain it. So you either lose your extra pawn or you retain it. You should be motivated to put every last ounce of energy into finding the solution to your problems. And if it turns out that there wasn't a solution to be found or that the answer was beyond your level, don't feel bad. As long as you, don't feel bad. As long as you recognize the moment's importance and try as hard as you can to solve it, there's no reason not to feel happy with yourself. So remember that. It is in this particular situation, black found the right way to proceed. So don't feel bad. So like if you're watching this on a recording and you stop it here because you want to solve it for yourself, and you don't understand the situation, don't feel bad, because you know what, we're all improving, we're all getting better. There's only one solution for this to be solved, and the correct solution is c 4, bishop c4, exclam here. A nice move that defends the A and defends c8 and also creates a nasty threat that white correctly missed. If queen takes b6, which is a double question mark blunder, excuse me, this move actually comes into mind. White snapped while the snapping is good, basically, of the pawn. But this proved this obvious capture loses in a lot of different ways. Excuse me. White needs to settle down and proceed process all the things that black's move does. So just settle down. Don't just go for a take right away. Once you understand that queen h4 check was a devastating threat, white would be in the same must-find situation that black was a moment before. Then it would be up to white to hunker down, find the best way to put up some resistance. White's assessment of the position need is fairly straightforward. If queen h4 is a deadly blow and a quiet defensive move like queen g2, or I'm not g2, but g3, pawn g3 for white. Black is consolidated with rook c6 and is better at this point. So at this point, if white had played this, rook c6 consolidates everything, and then queen b8, king g7, queen e5, and rook f6. So white needs to avoid the big threat and try to create some counterplay at the same time, since black's two connected passed queen pawns will be devastating to white. If white wants counterplay, he needs to get his rook into action. Thus, the best continuation at this point would have been rook to d2. Rook d2 would have been best, which gives white's king access to e2 in case of a check on h4, making a lot of sense. However, rook c6 doesn't have the same desired effect as before with queen b6 at that point, on queen b8. So if you tried it, excuse me, you can actually play, let me see here. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, hold on. One second. There we go. It's got a frog in my throat for some reason. Sometimes that happens. So what could happen now if this here, 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 and then rook d6 could actually be played here. Queen c2, king g3, queen f5, queen d4, and white is doing well. So after rook d2, queen h4 is still the best move. So after rook e2, queen h4 is still the best move. So king e2, queen, so rook e8, and then queen takes b6, and then queen takes h2, king f2, queen h, king e2. And though black is obviously better, white is still hanging on and forcing his opponent to work hard for the win. So after this move here, this actually wins. Clearly a must find clearly a must find the move. Mentality is critical in a position. It is useful both in an attack and defense. At the high levels of the game, both sides constantly push their own mental, they do their own attack with unerring singleness of purpose, and more often than not, when one side blinks and accepts that the opponent's ideas are better than his, they are hers. Better idea than that. The blinker quickly finds his position sliding into oblivion. Basically, is so that means that the opponent is starting to lose. So what white should have done, rather than just snap the pawn, calculated g3, calculated what would happen after that, and then look at rook d2 as well, and try to find a must. Just don't. There's a reason that your opponent gave you a pawn. Find out if it's just a pure blunder, and if it's just a pure blunder, then you should be okay. But if not, you're going to be in deep trouble. Let's get this is a Kramnik game versus Magnus Carlsen. So Kramnik is Vladimir Kramnik. Magnus Carlsen. This is a 2007, so this is an older game. But it's better to learn from this and be doomed, and then you're not doomed to repeat it. So that's important. Okay, we're good to go. Let's do it from white's perspective. So knight f3. I think they're going to go down potentially they're going down a ready opening. Then c4 by Kramnik. They're doing it English now. e6, g3, d5, counterplay in the center, bishop, d5, d4. Wait a second, is that right? Knight f3, c4, e6, g4, d5, d4. Interesting. Bishop e7. See, we looked at this move here. At this point, I'm thinking that a4 is the best move, best continuation here, because it stops the consolidating move of b5, and then you're good to go at that point. Or you could just at this point play. Actually, maybe you can just bring your bishop out, and then if he tries that, then you could play a. And they can't play this move here, because you'll just take and it puts a piece on pre. They could try maybe this. Then you play here, bishop up, and you can actually try something like this move here. This is kind of like, what are you doing? Can't they just take? Yeah, then you take, and then if they push, then you could play here, and if that's taken, then the pawns just get too overextended. And now this is a tremendous attack happening. And black castles. You could take, queen takes if you want to solidify down. Black has an outside pass pawn. Your pawns are on one side, so it's going to be interesting. They can even go like this. Actually, wrong. I wouldn't want to move that rook. I do this one, and then if this gets played, he plays there, and then castles. Uh-oh. Wham. So that can't be played at that point. Sorry about that. The bishop would just snap it off. So probably knight there, and try to bring the pieces in. Really interesting position, and white would just castle. So that's kind of why that doesn't happen. Kramnik just went down a theoretical line. More theory than anything. And then castles, castles. D takes C now. Queen C2. A6. And then now this does threaten to play here and support at that point. That does threaten to support. So queen now is forced to take, because if you played something slow like this, Kramnik could do that, and if that happened, you even have there. And if you try taking, now you do have this tactical blow. So the best move would actually be to push. And then once this, you'd have to retreat back here. That'd be an interesting position, to say the least. So queen takes. B5. Queen C2 back. Bishop B7. Bishop B2. Knight C6. E3, support the pawn. Knight B4. Bishops are doing a really good job. Bishop takes. So now let's just stop 1 second while I'm gonna get a drink, and we'll talk about this position here. We've reached an imbalance. Tremendous imbalance. Kramnik now has the two bishops. So what's going to happen is this bishop he doesn't have a bishop. White doesn't. Magnus doesn't have a bishop. So what Kramnik's going to do is try to play on the dark squares, and Magnus is going to try to play more on the light squares. And if Magnus can neutralize this bishop's emphasis on the light squares, then he'll have a slight advantage. If not, then Kramnik will have an advantage. So what Magnus is going to have to do is plan for his two knights to get active. See, Magnus has space in the center where Kramnik doesn't, but he does have the two bishops and more development than his opponent does. Because of the bishop, and the knight. There's only a queen, knight. The bishop's trapped, but it can be developed any time. I understand with any knight move. But the queen's going to be coming down the pike as well. So this queen actually, in theory, could play queen d5 and keep pushing forward with an attack. So 12. A3 to kick the bishop. Bishop E7. and then knight bd2. The idea is if Carlsen can get the knight to b3 and then into b4, that's a permanent outpost. That would be really good. Remember the anti knight strategies that Jeremy Silman talked about? This right here is a problem for Kramnik. If a knight ever got to c5, he would have to somehow retreat his knight back to d7. But see, that would be reacting to Magnus's threat. So Kramnik doesn't really want to do that. So he's going to play rook c8. And at this point, if the knight tried to get there, Kramnik's going to shove down the c4 pawn. So b4 was played at this point. Now, this is a vital, very vital move, because if you tried the knight right away, this would actually be what was played. Magnus would try to get this move into the fray. And then you have knight here, and this would be a double attack, a triple attack. You can bring a rook over, but you can actually at this point play knight takes, and then here, and come down, and it's about an equal game. But remember, the bishops are good in open position, so you take there. Oops, sorry about that. That was a bad move on my part. Right, we'll stay right here, then takes. Now this is a really good position for Kramnik. He has the dark square bishop to a knight in a semi-open position. So that's why b4 is played, for the knight to come in and now have an outpost on c5. This also now permanently stops c4 idea of Kramnik, and still goes along with Magnus's idea. He now has two spots to go to, and they're permanent outposts. So Kramnik is trying to divert Magnus from playing his idea. Knight e5 here. Knight d5. I know what you're thinking. Why not just, rip this position open, right? Well, then you have this problem here. And if takes, in comes the rooks, and then you can actually double up and cause some hectic along the A. Also, a knight could come in, and there is also now playable. Yeah, this is just a mess. You wouldn't want to do that. Black has weakened the a5, the c5, and the c6, and the c7. He's weak on c7, c6, c5. That's where black is weak, and then a5, this square right here. However, the pawn on a5 is trying to make a fight of it by threatening b4. Since b takes a4, the c5 problem is cured at that point. Black of all of his elements, so he can't really take there. Knight b3 was played at this point. Exclam. So Magnus is, remember how what Jeremy Silman talked about? If you have a move that you really, 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 I'm going to say it 2 more times, really, really want to play, by all means try to find a way to get that move in. And that's the whole idea behind b3, exclam, is knight b3. Very nice, but depriving black of his dream of c4 to c5. I mean c7 to c5, which would eliminate his weakness and free up his pieces. White maintains a grip on the queen side. White refuses to bow to his opponent's will, and instead presses ahead with his own ideas. However, wouldn't most players be transfixed by the loss of the b4 pawn? The only way someone can get beyond that is I cannot let him win a pawn mentality if they train themselves to see imbalances like space and control over advanced squares as being just as important, depending on the position, of course, as material. So, of course, as material is important. So, what Jeremy Silman is trying to say is you have to look at the position as important as the loss of material. So, even though the B pawn is probably going to fall on B4, Magnus's positional pieces or play is better than the material. You have to look at it as an imbalance. Don't look at it as points. Look at it as how can I use my pieces to the best of their ability. A takes B4. Knight to A5. Bishop A8. Knight A C6. Giving up the B pawn, whose purpose was to prevent C7 to C5, has given White the time to get his rather unopposed D2 knight to the C6 hole on C6. Yeah, C6. This not only basically puts a humongous bind on Black and forever stops C5 to C7 to C5. The working of the noble knight on B4 continues his daring quest to basically stop C7 to C5 at whatever cost. It doesn't matter. But the A file will soon open, allowing the white rook to enter the hostile territory with great furiosity pretty soon. So we have to look at that. So bishop takes, knight takes, queen d7, and then bishop takes d5, exclam, because you're thinking, whoa, hello, what are you doing? Aren't you giving up a bishop for a knight? Isn't it? Yeah, but this is a closed game. Getting rid of Black's one active piece, creating a great knight versus an inactive bishop scenario. And the future, reducing the flexibility of Black's pawn structure. So E takes is now important. Of course, C takes D is a major blunder here because double question mark, and you already see the reason it's a blunder. Knight takes, and that's a fork, and see you later, queen, and the game is gone. So, of course, you see that this is the correct move. Taking. A takes B. Now the knight has that in the open file. This knight is going to go unposed for a long time, tremendously long. Long enough to get a rook here, potentially rook over, and then that rook there. So you'll have two rooks on the A7 and B7. The B pawn has been rescued. Look at the new situation. We can see that White has retained the material equality, keeping a firm grasp on C5 and C6, and is ready to infiltrate along the A file. Note that the weakness of the B5 pawn, which quickly became White's next target. So B5 becomes White's next target. Rook F to E8. No better is Rook A8. This isn't any better. Rook A5. Rook takes A5. B takes A5. With a powerful pass pawn and potentially rook coming to A1, this B pawn is going to fall off the board pretty soon too. And the knight will escort it down the board. So like if the rook comes over here, this wasn't played, I'm just going to show you here, if that. Yeah, at this point, if this is played, you're going to have to take here, there, and then here, and Magnus is going to win with his pass pawn. So if that's played, you now can infiltrate in via this way. And if queen there, that loses a piece. So so after this, the queen has to go there, here. And if queen there, you can actually now move the rook over, and this is a horrible position. Even if this is played, you have that there, and then that's game, set, and match. So if you tried this here, you have that. If you tried that, you have check, there, and it's game, set, and match at that point. So this is a really strong move. It doesn't matter. Magnus has Kramnik basically cramped to the max. So now we talked about this pawn becoming a weakness. Boom, and comes A5. Bishop F8. Knight E5, because there's this pawn now. The queen's under attack at this point. Queen E6. Rook takes B5. Has to succeed the protection of this. It has to. There's no way to hold on to this pawn. That's why it plays there, and the rook takes. Rook B8. Rook takes B8. Rook takes B8. Excuse me. Queen takes C7. And then bishop D6. Queen A5 to keep a hold of this pawn. Bishop takes B. Black could actually, he says, if back here, bishop D6. If rook took B here, then rook A1. And the weak point of A8 becomes a paramount idea, because here and then there, and now you have a double attack. So after this, if rook takes, bishop takes D, then queen D takes E, queen takes E5, rook D1, queen E4, rook takes D5, rook takes D5, queen E1, B1 check, king G2, check, H3, queen E6, check, and then G2 or G4, and it's resignable at this point. Black can resign. So that's why he took with the bishop. Rook b1. Now this is actually threatening mate. Queen d6, everything's guarding. And if you were thinking that this saves the day, actually it doesn't, because then the bishop there, and now this has to be played. And if the queen tries to guard here, the knight actually comes in to d7 surprisingly, and the game is over at this point, because you then could just trade and be up a knight. Yeah, tremendous attack, loving it. So a4. Now there's no more attack on the queen, and so there's no reason to play any more. If then we're gonna put only move here, we'll put white is extremely better, and then we'll put a square so you know that that's where it stopped. If this bishop was played, or were played, rook takes, queen takes, then queen a2 to go after the pawn, bishop b4, queen d5, d5, two extra pawns. With two extra pawns, make no mistake about it, this kind of strength of mind isn't just for the elites. You can you can begin to develop it at any level by training yourself to highlight your positional favorable imbalances while refusing to cave into your opponent's attempt to turn your head to his way. Basically, make it so that you're a way to look at his things or something. Basically, what you're trying to do is your opponent will try to make you start reacting to their idea. Don't do that. This training can be done by studying Grandmaster games, getting a feel for the way the chess elites stress the positional aspect of their games, or you can and should practice this in your own games, tournament or blitz. Make sure that every game you play is a live lesson in positional cures for the. Remember what we say? We say this move doesn't bother us. We're going to continue with our own plan. This move doesn't bother us. You kind of got to have a little bit of. I know it sounds like a mantra, but it's very important. I must find the best move. You have to have that idea. I must find the best move. I will make full use of the positional imbalances in my position. So if you think about it, you have that mentality of thinking, I must find the best move. I will make full use of the positional imbalances in my position. It's my party, and I'll do what I want. Remember, that's one of his sections that we went over. And the other golden nugget that we could take away from it of that nature, yes, it will be wrong from time to time, but that's how you learn. When you get when you get checkmated, or you at least you tried your hardest to look for the imbalances and you lost or drew, as long as you gave it your all, you go back over your games again, my friends, you will be able to find those imbalances and improve as a chess player. This happens to everybody when you kind of lose. You have to get up, wipe away the dust and the owies, and try again and again, no matter what. You can't give up. You can't say, I lost this, so I'm just going to give up. No, that's not we don't have a give up as chess cruncher mentality. Let's just give it a check, see how we're doing on time. I think we should have enough time for one more game. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be, there's another game that we're going to be working on here. This is ICC chess. That's how many games were played. Okay. Let's do it to it, my friends. Okay, d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, b5, c takes b, a6, b6. This is a Benoni accepted pawn return variation. e6, knight c3, c takes d, knight takes d, knight takes d, queen takes d, knight c6, e4, bishop e7, bishop c4, castles knight f3, and rook b8. You're thinking to yourself, wow, he just left that pawn on pre. But remember, this pawn can be taken at any moment. There's no way that there's not a problem. Castles, rook takes b6. Now the pawn is able to be taken. Queen to h5, and then d6. This lets the other bishop out. Knight h5, or g5. Bishop takes, and more like, oh wow, you can't play that because of the pin. Whoa. Queen e8. Every blitz can be a good training ground for mental toughness and pushing your own game or energy. In fact, in a quick game, a player has to push his own will and turn on autopilot. It has to become a natural as breathing, while reacting eventually becomes something you do something you only do with a very heavy heart. So basically, if you're reacting, you have to do it with a very heavy heart, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. In this diagram right here, black, who has a good game, threatens both threatens both queen takes e4 and rook takes b2. How should white react to this move? Black threatens this move here and this move here. So white has to deal with both threats. This is a blitz game, so you can't go reactive at this point. You have to be 100% accurate at this point. I'm gonna say that probably queen e2 would deal with both threats, but I'm not even looking at it, so I haven't looked at it yet. So I'm gonna say queen e2, but I'm gonna give you a chance to give it your best go on it. What you think it is. If you're watching this on a recording, then stop it now and give it your best go what white should play to deal with both problems. I gave you my idea. I'm not sure if it's right. I haven't even looked at it. Okay, if you're back with us, surprisingly, rook A to D1. I think I would have had probably more reactive. This would have been more reactive. We all have to work on not allowing this, because then now you're not attacking anymore. You're reacting to your opponent's threat. My idea was that I could take scope on this pawn, but it's actually defended twice, so this would not be a good move. What white's going to try to do is counter strike on b6. So if the rook took on b2, the other rook would take on d6 and then take a center pawn for a wing pawn. And then if the queen took on e4, then the bishop would come to, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This move here, here, and if queen took to try to protect the knight, then that actually loses a piece on the spot. You're in trouble after that. And then if you don't take that way, but let's say you take here, right? You again step into a fork. And then if the queen retreats back, you can actually now attack and then in there, and you can actually play there if you wanted to, but I wouldn't take. Just try to figure out what, probably that is strong, and after there, you're now coming in, and this is a problem. If you take here, then mate is to boot, and so you're gonna have to be very, very, very careful. The kind of move that that's perfect for blitz, good or bad. White is striving to refine the position on his own terms. Note what is going on. Black was trying to tell white that the losing of the b pawn and the e pawn were the factors that really mattered in the position. He wanted white to agree and begin to defend. Instead, white pointed out that d6 in an instant, that this was more important than b2 and e4. Now it's up to black to get rid. It's up to black to get a grip on the position and find a way to challenge white again. This is actually a blunder here. They actually played this move. So a double question mark. I knew it wasn't the best move. There's something wrong with this. Black immediately fell apart under the full impact of rook A to D1. Instead, he could have tested white a bit with this move here, knight to E5. Queen E2. Knight takes C, bishop, queen takes, and then bishop E6. And black has slightly the better of it, but the bishops of opposite color and the weak D6 prevents him from getting more than that. For example, if queen C3, bishop takes A, rook D2, and queen E6, bishop F4. Both sides logically build up against the weak points. Rook F B8, rook F D1, and white is fine here. But that's not what was played. Bishop D3. Oh, ouch. That is devastating. Bishop g4. G6 is actually not the best move. We have to have this be promoted to the main line. Bishop g6 is not the best move because bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes, bishop b7, then bishop f6 is also hopeless for black. Bishop h4, and the fact that you keep pushing your stuff, you'll find that most players just won't be able to keep up with you. So they won't be able to keep up with your key moves at this point. We'll probably call it here because we're entering a whole nother section, and it has a lot of more stuff to talk about. So we'll call it right here. The next section is called key positions. So this is just a tantalizing thing, a little tantalizer articular for tomorrow. What we have to remember is from the Magnus Carlsen game and the this game here of a blitz game that Jeremy Silman went over on ICC Chess, is that you have to always be looking for your plan. Don't react to your opponent's plan. That's something that you can work on in your own games. It's not just for the elite players or the top 30 or 40 in the world rated FIDEs. This could be for you as well. You have the gift to be able to do it too. And that just comes with practice and proper mental toughness, like what Jeremy Silman says. You have to have the mental capacity of saying, this move doesn't bother me, I'm not going to worry about it, I'm not going to react, I'm going to push my own. But you got to also remember, he did talk about one thing. He says you can't just berserk without any kind of way of doing it. If you're almost getting mated, let's say you know there's a mate 10 or 5, sorry, or 3, we'll just say mate 3. You're not just going to go with your own plan and allow mate to come on the board. You, for a moment, have to deal with the situation. Okay, sometimes you have to deal with the situation. That doesn't mean that you bend to the will of your opponent. That means you don't just slip into I call it the reactive mode. I will do what he wants, kind of Android kind of talk, like if he moves here, I will do what my opponent wants. I know I sound like an android, okay, but that's kind of the mental thing that happens. And if you can get your opponent into that state, you've already won, because they'll do whatever you want at that point. And that's what hardening your mental toughness will do. Is it'll break that android talk like this. I know I sound mechanical, but that's kind of what happens. You want to be thinking for yourself. The Lord Jesus made us to have a mind to think, not to be like an android and do what the others want. We got to do what He wants. Okay, we'll leave you on that. So we learned about mental toughness, not saying to yourself, if the position isn't going to hurt me, I'm going to do what I want. And you have to be smart. If you have to deal with the situation, deal with it, but keep your plan always in the forefront of your mind. Okay? All right. I want to thank you for all logging on, participating, listening to the summary that we always do at the very end. And remember what Bruce Lee says, that you take all the knowledge that you acquire from reading books, looking at Grandmaster games, doing the Team Chess Cruncher on Chess Cruncher TV's website, and you're more than welcome to type in business law on leechess.org and go over some of our studies and improve that way. But always keep pushing forward, never settling for second place, because we know that second place in Bud's training is first loser, which means there is no first loser. You're either number one or It pays to be a winner, as they say, when there's one team that's number one. Pays to be a winner. And that's what we have to remember is also that when it comes down to critical decisions, the most critical decision that we have to make is what are we going to do with the Lord Jesus Christ? Are we going to receive him as Lord and Savior of your life, or are you going to reject him? We have to decide one day because eternity is for real, and we have to decide where we're going to be in eternity. Okay, but the Team Chest Cruncher motto is what we stand on for our studies. We hang up our coats, we hang up our hats, we sit down and study when most won't. Team Chest Cruncher does, and that makes all the difference. And as Wesley So says, serve the Lord Jesus. As I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chest Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, Lord willing. I'll be back on tomorrow. We'll keep pushing forward, onward and upward, and improving and getting better. And remember always what Hannibal Smith said, it's the truth. It's very important. Even inside of a random position, my friends, there's always a plan. And when you find it and you put your own will on that board and you don't let your opponent push you around, you get to say, I love it when a plan comes together. Hoorah, go Team Chest Cruncher. Have fun studying, and I'll see you tomorrow. Be blessed. Bye-bye.